Let's use Excel to compute the return on investment and residual income for Beltron Incorporated, which requires a 12% rate of return on investments. You can see that we've got information below about two of their products, the air purifier and their UltraCharge product. You can see the revenue annually for each product, the annual operating expenses, and the invested capital for each of the products. Okay, let's go into Microsoft Excel and see how we can use Excel to compute return on investment and residual income. And we'll do some graphing to create sort of a dashboard so we can analyze that information. Let me go over and share my screen and go to my Excel file. You will need to open up the Beltron example that came with your chapter. And the example should have data like this, data about the air purifier and the UltraCharge. You've got the revenue, expenses, and invested capital. Let's start by computing return on investment, ROI percentage. To compute the return on investment, let's put in a formula. So hit equals. And we're going to take the revenue and subtract the operating expenses. And we're going to take all of that and we're going to divide it by the invested capital. I'm going to actually multiply this then by 100, so I get like a whole percentage value. We hit enter, and there I go. I've got a 20% return on investment for the air purifier. I can do the same thing for the UltraCharge, but I don't necessarily need to re-enter all that. I could just grab the corner of this cell and drag it down, and it will copy it. And it will adjust for the row number as well. So there I've got the return on investment for both products. Now let's compute the residual income. Residual income is just measuring if our return, after subtracting the operating expenses from revenues, exceeds the rate of return that we would have expected on that invested capital. And we're expecting a return of 12%. That's our required rate of return on the invested capital. So our formula would start out by taking the revenue, subtracting the operating expenses, okay, to get our return. And we want to see if that is greater than a required rate of return, which is computed by taking the invested capital times the required rate of return, which in your problem was given at 12% or 0.12. So I get residual income of $80,000, which is positive, and it tells me then that my rate of return is something greater than the required rate of 12%, which we know it is because the rate or return on investment was 20%. I can copy this down, this formula down, and compute the same thing for the UltraCharge. Okay, well, let's look at this visually. One thing I could do is I could insert a graph or a chart. So there, I've got all sorts of charting options available to me. But I want to first start by highlighting the information I want to graph. So I'm going to click on and drag down that information on the products, the air purifier. And then I'm going to hit Control and then click and drag down the data on for residual income or return on investment percentage, sorry. And then I'm going to go up here, and in this case, I want to do a sort of a bar chart or a column. And let's do a clustered column sort of bar chart. And I'm going to click on that. And now I have a chart that gives me a comparison of the percentages of my various product lines. I might want to add a few details to that chart. And there's all sorts of options within Excel. In my version of Excel, I'm going to click up to options to add elements. I could add titles, I could add labels, data labels, all sorts of things, legend. There's also some quick layouts that are already built in. In this case, I'm just going to go over and grab a quick layout. I think I'll grab this one here, layout number 9. There we go. I kind of like the way that looks. Now, I should probably enter something different. I'm going to go and call this ROI comparison. This is my ROI comparison chart. This axis is giving me the or has the ROI percentage. And if I click on this axis title down below, this is giving me what? My products. And okay, and there I go. I've got uh, a nice chart that I can use to evaluate my various product lines and comparing their return on investment. Could I do the same thing for residual income? Yeah, definitely. So let's highlight the products again. And this time, let's grab residual income. I'll hit insert, back up to my bar charts, and grab this 2D clustered column chart. I hit OK. And again, I've got another chart that, and I'm going to move my chart a little bit so it's not overlapping. But now I've got a chart that's got all the data, but I'd like to maybe clean it up and add some labels. So I'm going to use that same. I kind of like the way that looked. Let's use layout number 9. And let's call this the residual, income comparison. We'll call this in this horizontal or vertical axis, we'll call this the residual income. And down here, we will say products. And there we go. We've got 2 graphical displays to compare our residual income and our return on investment percentage. And that might be more efficient and easier for people to process if we can create a dashboard or something like that that allows this to update. We can keep this current by just updating the data, and then the dashboard would update. Like for instance, if I went in here and maybe we had different revenues, maybe this revenue was for the air purifier was actually 750,000. Boom, I've got a big change. Oops, I put 75,000. Let's go 750. Might like something like that. Actually, if I had that 75, that would be not real good, but I'd actually have had a negative return on that product, and the graph would change dynamically. So I can use Excel to do all sorts of things, and one of those is to create dashboards and displays of data and information just like this one.